What's up, guys? It's me, Tim, with Gutter Growth. I'm here interviewing Tina, and she's going to talk a little bit about business systems. But first, Tina, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background?
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. Excited to chat with you. So a little bit about me. About 7.5 years ago, my boyfriend and I started up Idaho Custom Rain Gutter. It was actually his idea, and I actually shot it down. I was like, I don't think it's a good idea. And he was like, you're crazy. We're doing it anyway. And I really kept saying, I just really don't think people will like pay to fix their gutters. And he said, well, I'm getting a machine anyway. I'm doing it, whether you agree or not. And I'm so glad he did, obviously now. It's been just a really cool journey for both of us. But we started working out of his house just like most owners do. We did that about a year, and now we've grown. We have about a 5,000 square foot warehouse and anywhere from 15 to 18 employees, depending on the season. So it's been pretty fun.
So was he already in the gutters before he wanted to start, or was he working for a company?
He was a home inspector, and then he did a little bit of like home remodeling and like repair work. And he would always have to refer those jobs out. And it seemed like every gutter company that was supposed to show up, like never showed up or didn't do a good job or did, poor quality. And so he just kept saying, man, I wish there was someone reputable that would actually take care of these people. And so he kept saying, I think I should just start my own. And he'd never done it. But one of his good friends worked in the industry. And so he was able to kind of brainstorm with him about how to get started. And then he just kind of ran with it.
How did that look in the beginning with him not doing any installs?
Well, it was pretty interesting because it's kind of an inside joke, but he's actually afraid of heights as well.
Is it?
Yeah. And so we've had a lot of really funny, cool stories of him having to like go up on roofs and like women taking him upstairs and climbing out their windows and being like, come out here and look at this with me. And he's like, no, I can see it from here. I'm good. But it was a big learning curve for sure. But luckily, he had some friends, like I said, in the industry, and they kind of just gave him a general direction of like, here's what you do. And he really just figured it out himself. I mean, he taught himself, and he was the one hanging rain gutter with his employee he had with the remodeling company. And so they just kind of learned it together and we're going out. And so there was a lot of funny times and a lot of learning. But it was really just him and that guy who had no gutter experience started out. I think it was just the two of them from like 3 to maybe 5 months, could be at the max 6 months. And then we recruited somebody to come on who had like 10 years gutter experience.
Did he get over his fear of heights, or
No, he still doesn't
no?
like heights.
But he didn't. It sounds like he didn't have to do it too long.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. A lot of people are shocked when they hear that. Like, how can you own a gutter company and be afraid of heights? And but he would, he's been up on crazy roofs, and he was up on a church one time and slipped. It was all wet, started raining, and like fell and went skis diving off of the roof. And so he has some funny stories to share about it. So it was a good, fun learning experience, honestly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how many crews you guys got going now?
So right now, I believe we have 5 crews, and then I have a service guy who's just doing like cleanings, repairs, and small gutter installs. We usually are at full capacity. We have 6 rigs going, but I have a machine down right now that I had to send back to KWM. And so I have 1 rig just totally down and out.
Was that a new machine?
It was only a few years old, maybe 4 years, I would say. But we had taken it down to our local supplier, and they tried fixing it, repairing pieces on it, like trying to do everything we could to fix it here locally. But we just could not get it back up to running like to the standard we want it to. It would have scratches or lines, or ripples, and we're just like, we can't keep doing this anymore. And so I was gonna order another, just a new machine, and then when that one came back, just have it stay in the shop, as a backup at all times, because it is horrible when you're completely down a rig. But we've just kind of adjusted, and we're kind of restructuring things right now in the business as far as like who a lead is, and then like having, an assistant lead. So we really are trying to kind of fine tune and lay out better expectations of what those roles look like. So it's actually a really good time to have a little bit of a shift anyway. And we're just trying to implement and improve like so many systems right now that we're really spending this whole year just like dialing everything in, before we move out of this shop into probably an even bigger one. Like, I feel like you can have so many systems in place, but there's never too many.
There's always something to adjust, right? And
Oh my gosh, yes. I have an office manager, and I was talking to him the other day, and my mind just goes crazy. I'll think of something, I'll hear something that's not going right, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know what we need to do? And I want to like implement a process for everything. And he's like, oh, that's really great. Is there any way we could just keep doing what we're doing for a while? And I'm like, no, I mean, we have to change I feel like it is good to have systems and procedures in place, but if they need changed, like, you just have to do it.
yeah, if it needs improved. I mean, I'd imagine that's pretty huge growth for 7 years to have that many trucks going that quickly. I
Oh
guess that
yeah.
takes a lot of good business systems for that, huh?
Oh, for sure. And I think the biggest thing I feel like I realized, and I tell everybody, is the first thing that people should do is hire somebody, because so many small businesses, they're doing everything themselves. So many people I talk to, they're like, I'm the one doing the estimates, I'm billing, I'm doing invoicing, I'm ordering material. And I just have been there, and you just can't implement things, and you don't even have time to hire people when you're doing that. And so I would say within the first 2 years, I hired someone in the office, even probably before I thought that we should hire someone. I mean, it's a big responsibility when you pay out a salary to have someone full time when you're a small business. I mean, it's scary.
It's scary. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
my
that
first
first,
hire.
yeah. And you're like, no, I don't know. These people are relying on me for food and shelter, and you just, it kind of makes you sick, but you have to do it or you just can't grow. Like, you're drowning. And I remember feeling like, gosh, I really need to hire someone, but I don't even have time to like write up an ad or call anybody or email them back. So like, what's the point?
I did what Scott did. I had a girlfriend sign up, but she
It's a good
wasn't
move
free.
too. A
But
lot of
yeah,
people do that as well.
yeah, no, but she was a real estate agent at the time, so I still had to make sure she was making money. So I set a salary for her, and it was scary, but honestly, that's what started my growth. As soon as I got, how many little guys are missing 5, 6, 7 phone calls a week because they're on a roof. They don't have someone
Yep.
to answer it. Just not
So
having those
true.
phone calls answered is costing you.
Oh,
And
for sure. I think
so I feel
that,
like it pays for itself.
oh, yes. And just it relieves a lot of that stress off of you too. Like when you feel like you can't do everything right. And then when you're spending so much more time putting out fires and fixing things and running material because you didn't have the right people or the right thing or the right job, then you're literally just going backwards. So usually the number one thing when I talk to people is I'm like, you need to hire someone. Even if you start out at like 20 hours a week and they're an assistant and they work remotely, and you text them, put this in Jobber, or put this, email this, call this customer. I mean, just little things like that make such a huge difference. But I would say if your business is at a point where you have even one full crew going, I feel like if you're bidding it correctly and your numbers are right, you should be able to hire a part-time assistant.
So going back to like when you guys first started 7 years ago, what does that look like? What do you think that the systems that you put into place, because obviously the systems that you're putting into place now, you're at a whole different level in the company. So they're different goals and different systems that you're putting in. That maybe some of the little guys that are just getting started out, they don't need to worry about that stuff yet right now.
Yeah.
So what do you think is one of the first things that someone who's doing under $250,000 a year should implement for a system?
Yeah, so I would say the first thing would be is have a hiring process, because when you're small, you're still hiring, or you're always going to be hiring, or as you grow, you will hire. And when we first started, one of the biggest things I feel like was a fault at first was I would just call people and say, hey, do you have any experience? Do you have construction? Whatever it was. And if they were like, yeah, I know how to read a tape and I can show up tomorrow, I'm looking for a job, I'd be like, okay, great. Meet us at the shop tomorrow at 7:30. I'm going to have you go with so-and-so. We're going to have you do a ride along, and then I'll check back with you later. And to me, now I know that's way too casual, because you want to start doing little steps of what you want later when you grow now. And so it sounds so little, but to me, it's taking that hiring process so much more serious. Because when I remember being so small, we just moved into our first shop. There's like 4 of us, 5 maybe. And I would sit in there and I'd be having like this onboarding conversation, and they're thinking, wow, how big is this company? I'm like, oh, there's just 5 of us, but I treated it like it was bigger and better than maybe they were anticipating it to be, because I knew where I wanted it to go. So when I'm interviewing, I'm talking about, okay, when you come in, we're going to have a new hire checklist, and we're going to kind of go over the expectations here and the policies. And when you get here, I'm going to have your shirts ready for you. What size are you? You're required to wear a sweater. You need to be here at this time, download this app. This is where you're going to clock in. And so they were like, wow, I'm getting a real job here, and so it just feels so much more professional when you deliver it in that way. And then they know your expectations right up front. And then they in turn take the job so much more serious and, more pride in what they're doing.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense. So a lot of it's just being proactive and having the systems in place before you even bring them on.
yeah. And telling so many people, the biggest thing and I would love to know what you think, but I hear a lot of people saying that just people don't show up to work. They call in and they feel like this is all I have. I can't lose this guy. I can't fire him. So he can just keep calling in all he wants, because he knows I'm not going to let him go. But I feel like up front, when you hire someone, in my new hire checklist, it says like, this is a 30-day probationary time frame. If you no show or don't call and no show, like you're done. Like there's no exceptions that,
Do you do employee contracts?
No,
No.
we had done a non-compete for a while. But honestly, I want people to know that if you're not a good fit here, with me, it doesn't mean you're not a good fit somewhere else, or you have different goals. I would say one thing, when people have been in other gutter companies or have previous gutter experience and they come to us, I get feedback that we're a lot different from them, which, to be honest, is kind of what we wanted. But a lot of people are used to it. There are so many people I've heard is it's so chaotic at other companies. Like they don't know what jobs they're doing that day, where they're going. The owner will be like, go get your material this morning from wherever, call Mrs. Smith. She doesn't know you're coming, and, we try so hard to have all of that prepared. One, it helps people feel more accountable to showing up. Hey, so-and-so, I'm already scheduled. These people know I'm coming a week out. Like if you don't come today, like that messes up everything. So I think even just those 2 little baby steps are actually huge. And it's
It is pretty huge. It's setting the stage for you to be professional. So
yeah,
you're leading the way. You're being professional, so they're gonna expect to be professional. And sounds like some of those guys are probably calling you because of what they're experiencing with the chaotic companies.
yes. And then and it's interesting because you'll attract the people that want that. And the people that are like, oh, wow, it's strict here. We have to show up on time, and, I have to call my jobs and I have to put notes in. It's like, yes, we expect a lot, but we also give a lot, but it makes their job ultimately better and easier by doing that. But some personalities just aren't equipped for that. And we understand. That's why I say, you know, we're not a good fit for everybody. If you're not and you like not knowing what you're doing, I get that too. You know, if you're used to that and accustomed to it and you like that freedom, you know, it is what it is. But that's just not how we operate, you know, to maximize every day and efficiency and deliver good customer service. You know, we just can't, you know, not to say it hasn't happened before where something falls through, you know, that happens no matter how prepared you can be. But for the most part, you know, we try to avoid that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So what are you getting into nowadays?
As far as,
I don't know, are you doing something with business systems?
oh, yeah. I was like, well, right now in business, uh, we are, however, on the flip side, before I dive into that, we're really trying to focus on like our half round and European box gutter. So that's what's interesting about this business is there is so many levels of and things to learn. And I think so many people forget about that. So I think that's something I just always like to share is to like keep challenging yourself, because that's not something that's second nature to us. We don't get to do a lot of it, but we're really starting to, you know, break into that, which is fun and challenging. And it just keeps your creativity going as, you know, an entrepreneur and as a company, and it opens up new opportunities to make income. And so I do like to share that. But as far as what I'm up to these days, I've always really wanted and enjoyed talking with other entrepreneurs just about what their goals are and where they're held back, because it's all kind of very similar. And I think it's just, to me, it's like a little puzzle, you know. I just want to dive right into it. Like, well, what are you doing? What are you feeling? What are you hearing? What are you good at? What are you not good at? You know, what are your goals? And so I love doing that. I've just kind of naturally always enjoyed talking with business owners. And so I'm excited that at GutterCon, I'll actually have like an admin boot camp there. And so I'll get to share some of the systems. There's so many though, and I'm trying to kind of figure out what to share that's most applicable to everyone. But you know, all the way from like a handbook to policies and procedures or job descriptions or salary scales, or, you know, so there's just so many things, but I want to kind of share those with people, because when we started over 7 years ago, which seems like a long time to me, but it's really not that long ago. Oh yeah, so it'll be like a breakout room, and we're just going to kind of go over some policies and procedures. I'll bring some forms that people will get to take home with them that day, you know, that they can put into action. And then they'll also get them electronically so they can tweak them, put their own logo on them, things like that, or edit it. You know, if maybe one policy I have is they want something different, then they can just delete and edit it, but they don't have to start from scratch. So I think that'll be huge, because last year's gutter conference, so many people came up to me after I spoke, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, can you send me those? Can you send me those? But at the time, I wasn't intending to do this. So I didn't have it lined out to just give to people. So I've been working on like creating those forms. So I'll have them all ready. And then people can just easily edit them and use them for their own. So I think that'll help people a ton, just to kind of get the wheels turning, because it's the biggest step is just taking some sort of action.
Yeah, I agree.
People freeze up, I think, and they're afraid to try something, or they're so worried about it being perfect before they do something that they just wait and wait until they have this, you know, perfect recipe. And sometimes it's like, just do it and then change it as you go. I can't tell you how many times I've made it better or changed it, you know, and so it doesn't have to be set in stone.
Just start in imperfect action, just get it going, and then just kind of change things a little bit as you go. And like you said, you're still changing stuff right now, right?
Oh yeah, still, you know, and every day. And I think that that's good, you know, if you're making it better, you know, because it's not about, you know, do it once and it's done. You know, I think chasing and improvement is really where we all want to be. You know, I always say I don't want to be the same person I was last year, and I don't want to be in the same business situation as I was last year. So, you know, how do you get somewhere different if you do the same exact things?
That's true. You got to be like water, just kind of like Bruce Lee says. Kind of
I
flow.
like that.
Yeah. But
That's
yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, even now, like I just started up my business, and like now I'm trying to like you said, with having everything done right away. So when they come in, there's not all this chaos. So I'm like trying to get all these systems put together that I didn't have when I first started Gutter Professionals. So I'm trying to get them all in order, kind of like the hiring stuff, like you were talking about. I came up with employee contracts, and I'm not doing the non-compete. I am for sales guys. Um,
Mm.
have you ever had a sales guy walk off with a bunch of accounts or anything like that?
No,
No.
you?
Not a bunch, but I mean, yeah, I had one guy take a couple accounts. I mean, he couldn't do much harm, but he did take a couple. It would have been nice to have a non-compete, uh, there for at least the sales staff. So
Yeah.
now I'm gonna, but that's the thing, like that's a problem that I had before. Now I'm not gonna have that problem again because I'm putting the system in place.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say too, is I think that when you worry about losing people, like in our system, for example, if a lead comes through, like more than one person is touching that customer, even our builders, so maybe the builder will call me if they really need something or they're in a pinch, but they're also going to work with my scheduling coordinator who has also really impressed them. And so it's about like building that relationship all the way around, so they're not like just connected to that one
To the one
person.
sales guy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
no,
you
I
never
agree.
know, I mean, and that can be hard for businesses or someone that refers you a lot of business. If that person leaves, who's their one go-to contact, it does make it tough. And then they're like, oh gosh, here we go again. Someone new, oh, you don't know how it works. I don't pay my deposit.
Yeah.
I don't have to. I'm grandfathered in. And so it's like someone else having to kind of deal with those adjustments, and then they don't feel the change every time your company has changed. Because I feel like, of course, me and probably several other businesses will say, oh my gosh, we provide an amazing culture, people love working here, but we have people leave, people that I think even genuinely like the company, but they have a different opportunity, or they move, or they want to try something different. And so it's just nice if they're involved with more people, so they're not, just fully reliant on one person, because people, unfortunately will leave at some point usually.
Do you have, and when someone leaves, it's costly. Do you have any systems in place to keep people? Keep
I feel
customers.
like what we do really well to keep people is we provide benefits, which is one thing I feel like a lot of gutter companies don't do. I'm proud that more and more are. But we offer health, vision, and dental. We pay 60% of the medical portion, vision and dental. And then we have immediately upon hire, you get like 1 week's paid time off, the paid holidays. And then every quarter we do something fun together. We've taken them sturgeon fishing and stayed the night, on a sandy beach by the river. We've gone out skeet shooting together, and I had shirts made, and it has like, the logo design on it and the year that we did it. And, people love being a part of something, because
Mhm.
I look at it like I want to be more than just somewhere you go to work. I know so much about every employee we have. I know,
Yeah.
their families, situations, their kids, their relationships. And, I just, you have to have a fine line there, of course, but I feel like it's important to just connect with them and be a place that's more than just where you show up to get paid. So I would say it's not really a system per se, but in reality it is, because if you don't have a system to schedule the event every quarter and someone to get all the stuff, and they know it's coming and you announce it, and so even stuff like that I think helps people like share even about how much they like it. When new people get hired, they go, oh my gosh, wait till our Christmas party, it's
Yeah.
so much fun, and so it attracts other people too. They're like, oh, I want to see what that's like. And then one thing that I do think people are really proud of is every year we gift them something, whether it's small or big. But the first year you just get like a black Carhartt vest, and it has their name embroidered on it, and then our logo, and then they can actually earn patches for different things. And then we put them on there. And so a lot of the guys are really proud to wear their vest, and they're really excited on like day, year one to like be gifted the vest and put it on. And, at the meeting and take a picture with it. And so it's just so simple when you think about it, like a vest, right? It's not a huge
Right.
expense. It's just kind of saying like, you've earned this. You're, a part of the family, and when you wear it and the other guys haven't been there a year yet, you feel cool, you have one, and the guys that don't are like, man, I want one. Um, so stuff like that is just fun for me. I like to just gift and reward them and just let them know we appreciate them. The next year is like a backpack cooler, and the next year is like a huge, like 88 quart cooler with like the logo on it. And year 4 is like a mini trip in town, like up in the mountains. And like, I don't want to say what my 4 year is because I have a guy coming up and I don't want to spoil it for him.
Surprise,
But
right?
but yeah, we just like doing stuff like that. I like to let them know that I appreciate them being there instead of just like, thanks for being here for 4 years. That's a huge commitment. And
Yeah,
I just want to
4 years is
that how much,
huge.
how much it means to us, and like for them to keep something or to take it home and show their family, like, oh, look what I got from work. I mean, not how many people really do something like that anymore. Not a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Not all
So
systems are SOPs. I mean, I think business is just like a big system with a ton of little systems in it, and even stuff like that, keeping your company culture requires
yeah,
systems too. So I think
for
it's pretty
sure.
cool.
I mean, you talk to so many people. What's something cool you've heard that people do to give back or
Well,
reward?
like John with Mr. Pipeline, when I went into his facility, like they do things like or not customer, employee appreciation. So they're constantly having posts on Facebook celebrating their employees, like this is their employees for, or first year here or fourth year. And
Nice.
so I think that celebrating the employees is pretty big, and I've seen a couple guys doing that. I've seen Grant doing it. Um, but I think just them knowing that they're appreciated, because it's easy for them to just go through doing stuff and they're not feeling appreciated. They're 6 months in and they haven't even got a thank you or nothing from their
Oh yeah.
employer. So they're
Oh,
just not feeling good
sure.
about it. And so them being appreciated is going to make them want to step it up even more,
Yeah.
right? Because their
Yeah.
efforts are getting noticed.
Yeah. And I feel like everybody hits a burnout, and I understand, like sometimes, I feel like we have, I'm sure, I'm obviously biased, but I think we have the best guys, and, I appreciate them so much, and they work so hard. And what, if I need a favor, they always say like, I got you, don't worry, I got you. I'll take care of it, and I love that. But I also feel like it's because they know I'll take care of them. If I can, or if I can do something, or they have a doctor's appointment, or they get off early, or whatever it is, I always try to in turn be there for them, like to reciprocate that. So one doesn't feel like, oh, I'm doing so much more, because I really feel like it is a give and take. Nobody wants to feel like, oh, I'm just doing everything. I'm over here working, making you money,
Yep.
and you're just telling me what to do all the time, because that's the
Yep.
kind of energy a lot of people give off, and then when they receive that way, it's just so much quicker to hit a burnout. And that's when you start seeing people call in. And so I think just being aware and knowing who your people are too, you can almost kind of feel it or see it in their behaviors or their messages. And you're like, oh, okay, this guy, I probably better give him a couple light days, maybe not
Yeah.
super light, but I'm just not going to work him maybe as hard. Like, just reading people and understanding that we're all people and we all have a lot going on in life, and just try to be understanding and supportive of what they have going on too. It's not just all about, us and our goals and, what we're trying to do. I want them to feel like their life is important too. Their family is important. The things they want to go to are important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I seen this post other day from Gary Vee, and he said something like, "You build a company culture by having conversations. It's not just by giving out prizes and stuff, but like having conversations and being authentic and communicating. And like
Yeah.
you said, if you have their back, they're going to have yours. Because if you don't have their back, why are they
Yeah.
going to have your back? So if they don't feel that from
Right.
you, it's so I think a lot of it comes from the
Yeah,
leadership
for
and just
sure.
setting it up right.
And I think it's hard too, because when you're either an office manager or an entrepreneur or whatever it is, sometimes your days feel so busy. And there's days where the guys come in and they want to chit chat, and I'm all about it. Oh my gosh, what's been going on? We'll talk for 30 minutes. And then there are other days I'm like working and I'm like, hi, what? Oh. But it's like you just have to remember, like, they're important too, and so I'm sure they've all felt it or seen me do it, where sometimes I'm like, you got my undivided attention, and other days I'm like, I really need to get this done. But I think just remembering for all of us that they are as important as the customers that we're trying to make happy as well, and take the time to just visit with them and see how their day was. Because if you just blow them off, because they're going to feel like, oh, wow, you don't even care what I did all day today, and you learn so much, even on the work side of things, of what's going on out there by talking to them, what we need to do better or different, or if a job wasn't bid enough, or it took longer than we thought, we got to have those conversations too.
And I feel like if you don't have like the open door policy with the conversations where they could come to you with anything, I feel like they just stop telling you stuff, because you're gonna have
Oh,
like,
for
if
sure.
you have like a bad, if you're gonna respond bad to it, they're just looking to not get that bad response. So then they just don't tell you
Absolutely.
stuff. Like it could be something that went wrong on the truck, like you
Oh,
find
yeah.
out like, I had an employee one time, like all these little things kept going wrong with the truck, and like he just wasn't telling me. Like I 6 months later, I could have had all these things fixed by now.
Oh,
You
gosh.
don't know, but they got to feel comfortable to come with you with that type of stuff. Is kind of how I
Yeah.
feel about it.
Yeah, for sure. And if it's fresh on their mind that day and you're talking to them right at the end of the day, they're more likely to say something too. Or
Yeah,
they feel like, oh, you're actually going to do something about it.
yeah.
Every meet, like, we have a meeting every other week, and I always ask at the end of the meeting, does anyone need anything with their rigs or your tools? Like every 2 weeks they know I'm going to ask. So if they forget, they
Or if
have an
you're constantly ignoring the request or what they're telling you, then they're gonna stop telling you.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
like he's not gonna do nothing about it anyways.
I've definitely had a guy one time. I can't remember. I think it might have been an oil change. I can't remember, but he would tell me, and I don't remember what was going on, but it was just real hectic at the time. And I did tell our rep that services our vehicles, like, hey, this needs done. And the rep kept forgetting. And then he was like, yeah, that still needs done. Like at the next meeting in front of everyone. And I was dead. I was like, no, you did not just put me on blast. I'm like, I did ask for it to get done. But yeah, I mean, it's good though to have that open communication, because if I did drop the ball, like, I want to know. But not that I haven't dropped the ball several times, but that in that case it wasn't me. But I think that
But
they're understanding, too.
so getting back to GutterCon when you're there, like you said, the first time you didn't really have nothing to offer. Are you gonna have something to offer this time after? Like if people want to work with you?
Yeah, so basically I'm just going to put a package together where at the end of the breakout session, like, they'll all get to take it with them. And then we're also going to do like a little grading system. Like, I'm not saying I'm an expert by any means. I just think I have a lot of experience and I'm willing and love to share. But I'll have like a sheet that I've been working on, and it kind of shows what I did when and kind of where we're at now and what we've put in place. And then they can just use it as kind of like a self-grading system every year. Like, am I doing this? Am I doing that? Do I have this ready yet? No. And really what I want them to do is we're going to build like goals too. Like, I want to set realistic goals of what can they actually accomplish by the next GutterCon, because I'm not going to say, here's the sheet of 50 items. I get them all done. See you next year. It's like, hey, maybe if you're at one crew and you don't have any office help, like maybe the goal is to get someone in the office to help you. Okay, well, let's do that. And this person can implement these 5 systems. You can implement these 3. Like, you have 8 systems by next year. That's amazing. So I just don't
It could
want
get
people to leave.
overwhelming, right? Like if like
Yeah.
you go to these things and you hear all this stuff and you're like, I should change this, I should change that, I should change this, but I think that's good. You're kind of narrowing it down so they could just kind of focus on a few things. That's what it sounds like.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I remember for me, it took us, to be honest, I think it took us 4 years before we had our first handbook. Because a handbook is, I mean, who loves handbooks? Nobody. Who wants to write one? Like nobody. I mean, that is like probably the most boring thing ever, but you just have to have one.
Yeah.
And so even just something as simple as that can take somebody literally over a month, easy to create. And, so stuff like that, I want to share with people like, hey, don't spin your wheels on this thing forever. Here's the template, like plug in your numbers of what is applicable to you. And I mean, it's going to be so easy. So stuff like that, the new hire checklist, inventory. If they do inventory, it'll be interesting because I mean, I have at least 15 to 20 things that people can utilize. And so I'm just going to strategize how to make it most applicable to everyone, but then there'll be other options available if for some reason people are ready for more.
Okay. So then they would just be able to hit you up after and go
Yeah.
ahead.
And then they'll just be able to connect with me afterwards. And then I'll just do like sessions online, whether it's like an hour or if they just simply need a form that I already have, then I can just send them the form. But I'm envisioning there being options like monthly or quarterly, maybe it's like one PDF a month. And here's the ones that you can pick from. And every month you'll get a new thing that says like, hey, implement this month. And here's the steps to implement it. And so it's, I mean, it's going to be really affordable because I want people to be able to afford it, use it, and implement it. And then they can also book sessions to like hold up or ask questions or have accountability. I can call them, hey, how's that going? Did you get it implemented? What are you running into? Because I think the biggest thing when you implement something is all about the presentation, and so even just that step, you can give someone a form or a tool. And if they just hand it out in someone's inbox at work with no explanation or conversation, that could very well be, completely unsuccessful. So
Right.
at the breakout, I want to talk a lot about what that communication should look like as well with your team before you implement something so that it is successful. Because as we all know, not everybody likes change. Most people don't. And when you
No.
start setting expectations, people start to panic a little bit. And they're like, whoa, you want more out of me? Does that mean I get a raise? And that's
So
100% true.
what's your strategy to get people on board with when you change systems?
I'm a big communicator. So I explain why we're doing what we're doing and how that's going to benefit everybody. So I usually don't implement anything, I want to say for the most part, unless we've discussed it in a company meeting first. So
Okay.
I'll always talk with our in-office staff first, like, hey, this is my idea, and not all my ideas have been implemented. Some were like, you're crazy, we're not doing that, it's way too much work. But I usually want feedback, hey, what do you think about this? Does this make sense? Am I missing anything? Who's going to do it? When's it getting done? Does it make sense? Are we saving time, money, convenience, because you don't want to just implement stuff for the sake of implementing it. You want to know it
Right.
has a purpose and what does it do? Because you do need to be able to go to your team and explain why you're doing it. And if
So you kind
you
of
don't know why,
you broke
yeah,
up.
just if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, they're not going to want to do it,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Do you do like
So
a
yeah,
weekly
they just,
meeting or monthly or
we bi-weekly.
bi-weekly?
Yeah. We
And then,
all, and we have breakfast at everyone.
oh, really? That's
Yeah,
good.
sometimes it's something just light and easy, like bagels and juice. And sometimes Scott will make homemade, burritos with brisket and steak and beans in them for the guys. And, sometimes it's just donuts or whatever, but we just always bring something to the meeting. They enjoy it and we like giving it to them. So it's usually just like a half hour. So we try to make it pretty effective. We put like our stats on the screen now. So we have a TV out in the shop and it just shows like our warranties and who has them and what's going on with them. We'll post pictures if like a builder or customer says like, oh, I would have liked this like that instead, or, you know, just fine tuning things. Like we'll share that so everyone can see it then as a learning opportunity. It doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It's just, could we have done it better? And so I'll put something up like, honestly, what would you guys all do here? Does anyone have any suggestions of a better way to install this to make it look cleaner? Or like a big no, like, no, we don't do this. That's on the board here. Does everybody understand? Yes. So, and then we try to vote like an MVP, like an employee that's done well. And we let the other employees either vote for them, or if I just know someone that's really stood out, then I'll just go ahead and recognize them. So we try to not make it all boring in business and goal oriented, but you know, sometimes we'll do dorky stuff. Like this Friday, I said, well, what do you guys think about doing like a pumpkin carving contest and like a chili feed? And I was thinking for sure they were gonna be like, we're not carving pumpkins, you know. But I said, but whoever wins first place gets a paid day off. And they're like, yeah, let's carve
Pumpkin day.
So sometimes I make them do stuff that I don't think they would normally like, but we always end up having fun doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
it works out.
The food would
Yeah,
sell
it's a
me
good,
for sure.
right? I'm like, we're gonna have chili, cornbread, pumpkin pie, maybe some drinks, and just have a good time. So I'm trying to get everybody scheduled off light on Friday so that we can meet back at the shop and all hang out together. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, people don't think about it, but that's a system that needs to be in place. And, you know, that has a lot to do with probably why you're able to run 5 or 6 trucks, because that's hard to do. It's, you know, it's hard to find the talent and then keep the talent and then keep a company running and everything running smooth. And so it takes all those little systems and even stuff that people wouldn't think about, like company culture and treating employees right.
Yeah. I mean, it is tough for sure. I mean, and I get it. Like, I never like to sound like we have it all figured out or we run perfectly smoothly. You know, there's definitely hiccups, but I feel like you go through that sometimes as, you know, either people leave or management changes or things like that. But what's nice is it would be way worse if you didn't have the systems. Like, I know what's supposed to be done. It's just who's going to do it now while we're in this interim, you know?
Right.
And so with the guys, you know, at the meeting, sometimes I just say, hey, I appreciate you guys. I'm not asking you guys to pick up the slack, but I just really need to make sure you're doing what you need to be doing so that there's not one more thing, you know, to iron out. You know, so it's like, I'm just really open about stuff like, hey, things are stressful right now, or, you know, here's what's going on in the office. Like, I'm not asking you to do anything about it, but I want you to be aware. And can you just please make sure, you know, your stuff goes back on the shelf at the end of the day. And, you know, if you're put your notes in, so we're not having to call you and be like, what happened on the job? And, you know, so it's just awesome because they really are so good. And, you know, I feel like they're just good people with good work ethic. And so they want to do a great job, you know, so it's not like I have to force that, you know, they just naturally want to do well, which is just really awesome. I hear horror stories out there. So I know I have good guys, so I'm grateful for them.
Yep. But it takes those systems to make that happen. So, I mean, that's one thing that the audience at least take out of this. If there's one piece of advice that you could give everybody about business systems, what do you think's that one little nugget that would really help them out? Like the most important thing you could think of.
Gosh, one thing.
Just
I
one.
would honestly say we touched on it earlier, but it's really just don't be afraid to just start. You know, because that's really what it comes down to is most people, whatever that is, you know, whether that's hiring, whether that's putting in your time off policy and telling people, hey, if you miss too much work, you're out of here. Like, yeah, that sucks. Because all of us that started with just 2 or 3 guys, they're like family to you, right? And so in 4 or 5 years, and those people that are like family to you have to be like, hey, you know, you're not like guaranteed a position here. Like, this is business. I will do whatever I can for you, but in turn, like I have these set of rules and expectations, and we need to come together to make this happen. And that's tough to implement that, and
Yeah,
so,
it is.
I guess it just goes hand in hand. Like, just don't be afraid to start whatever it is, whether it's hiring someone, because we all think, oh, I'm the only one that can do it this good. Nobody's going to care as much as I do, or, but you just have to believe in people and give them a chance.
I think, and that's really how systems are created. I mean, you don't really have a system until you have a problem, and then you
Yeah.
make a system to fix it. So, I mean, you can't be afraid to have those problems. You just kind of, like you said, just act, just go ahead and get started. You run into
Yeah,
stuff, but the stuff that you're running into is going to be what helps you figure out what systems you actually need.
exactly. You hit it on the spot there.
So that's awesome. Um,
Cool.
cool. Well, I'm glad you came on to talk to us. I think everybody will get a lot out of this. And when is GutterCon?
It's February. Oh gosh, put me on.
February something, right?
I think it's the 15th through the 18th.
Okay.
It's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And it's in Florida. And I believe the registration is going live this weekend or early next week, I believe is what Bren said. So if people haven't been to GutterCon, I'm just going to put a little plug in here because I've been going since year one. And even it doesn't matter where your business is at, there's always so much to learn. And even if you're not there or you don't have time to implement, or you think you don't have time to implement, I encourage you to go even if you just take one thing home with you, like it's going to change your business. And not only that, but all the people you get to meet and network with. I mean, I feel like I've met so many really awesome people from even just attending GutterCon. A lot of people that I chatted with on the Facebook groups, that's where I met and heard of you, and then starting to chat with people and then getting to meet them in person was like, wow, this is so cool to meet you in person. Like I've known you for 3 years online, so it was really neat. So I really encourage people to just invest the money. It's so inexpensive for how much value that you get out of that. And even if you attended half of, the speeches or whatever, it'd still be more than enough that you could take back to implement and grow your business. So I just hope we have a good turnout. It's been growing every year. So I'm excited for Bren this year to see what it looks like.
I think it'll probably be the biggest year.
Yeah, I hope so.
Is this the fourth or no, this is the third, right?
Third. Yeah.
Third. Yeah.
Yeah. And Bryn just does such a good job. I don't know how he does it with owning a business and trying to put all that on. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, it'd be a lot to take on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
everybody needs to get a ticket. They need to go to GutterCon and they need to check you out, the breakout room. Or
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd love to help and chat with people. So hopefully if people have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I am, of course, super busy like everyone else. It might take me a minute, but I'll get to you. And we can schedule a time and chat. I love to hear about other businesses and what they're doing. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, just shoot me a message on Facebook.
awesome. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was good catching up with you.
All right, Tina, you have a good day.
Okay, you too.
All right, I'll see you guys.